I never imagined that I would feel a deep, inescapable attraction to another woman. Having always seen myself within the conventional boundaries of relationships, it never even crossed my mind to entertain an attraction towards someone of the same gender. Until Nora came back into my life. Nora and I had been close friends growing up, inseparable as we walked the streets of our small neighborhood, sharing secrets, dreams, and all the little details of our lives. But when she moved abroad with her family, we drifted apart. Years went by without much more than an occasional thought or fleeting memory of our time together. That is, until I received a message from her saying she was back and wanted to meet. I found myself filled with a strange excitement, an inexplicable thrill coursing through my veins as I prepared to see her again. We arranged to meet at a small cafe, a spot we used to frequent as teenagers. The anticipation built in me as I waited, sitting at a small table by the window. When she walked in, my breath caught. Nora looked confident, radiant in a way I hadn't remembered, carrying herself with an ease that spoke of self-assurance and quiet strength. She greeted me with a warm smile, and for a moment, it felt as though time had never passed. The conversation flowed easily, the words tumbling out like we were catching up on a lifetime. She told me about her travels, the people she'd met, and the places she'd seen. I listened, mesmerized, as her stories painted pictures in my mind, her words drawing me into the world she had created for herself. And I shared pieces of my life, though mine felt simpler, quieter. Her eyes met mine with a warmth that somehow unraveled me, and every glance held something deeper, something I was afraid to name. After that first meeting, we started spending more time together, picking up where we left off with an ease that seemed almost fated. I found myself looking forward to every moment we could steal together. There was something about Nora that stirred a strange, unbidden energy within me, a mix of comfort and attraction that felt new, yet familiar. One evening, as we sat on a bench by the park, watching the city lights flicker, she reached out, her hand gently covering mine. My pulse quickened as her fingers traced lightly over my skin, lingering just enough to send a thrill through me. "Clara," she whispered, her voice soft yet steady, "have you ever felt like someone came into your life to change everything?" I looked at her, my heart pounding, unable to speak. There was something in her eyes that mirrored the confusion, the longing, the strange thrill I had felt all along. In that instant, I knew that what I felt for her was something I couldn't contain or ignore. As our connection grew, so did the depth of my emotions for her. Every stolen glance, every accidental brush of her hand against mine sent my heart racing. When we met up, we no longer just talked. We'd sit in comfortable silence, eyes locking across the table, her gaze warm and intense, like she could see the desires I kept hidden from everyone else, even myself. One quiet evening, as we walked through a narrow alley lit by street lamps, she suddenly stopped, turning to face me. She didn't say anything, but her eyes spoke volumes. Without a word, she leaned in, her hand reaching up to cradle my cheek. Her lips hovered just inches from mine, giving me time, space, as if offering me one last chance to pull away. But I didn't want to pull away. Not this time. She closed the distance between us, her lips pressing gently to mine, and the world around us faded away. Her kiss was tender, but laced with a quiet urgency, as though she'd been waiting for this moment as long as I had. My hands found their way to her shoulders, pulling her closer as the kiss deepened. I felt her respond, her mouth moving slowly, deliberately, as if she was savoring every moment. Her tongue grazed my lips, seeking entry, and when I parted them, the kiss became even more intimate. The sensation of her tongue against mine sent a shiver through my entire body. I felt every nerve ending in my skin ignite as her fingers traced patterns along my back, sending a trail of warmth wherever they touched. My hands slipped up to tangle in her hair, pulling her closer still, as though I could somehow melt into her. The air between us was thick with unspoken words, with a connection that went beyond physical attraction. Her lips were soft yet demanding, a contrast that left me breathless. As her kiss deepened, it felt like an emotional release, like all the tension I'd held inside was finally pouring out. I had spent months denying my attraction to her, convincing myself it was just a fleeting feeling, a crush that would fade in time. But as Nora's lips moved over mine, I realized this was something far deeper. It wasn't just lust. It was an acknowledgement of feelings I hadn't been ready to face. The kiss was Nora's way of telling me she had seen me all along, that she had been waiting patiently for me to understand what I wanted. When we finally pulled apart, both of us were breathless. My lips tingled, and my heart raced as I looked into her eyes. They were filled with a mix of satisfaction and unspoken promises. "I've been waiting for you," she whispered, her voice husky and low, filled with a gentle knowing that warmed me to my core. It wasn't a question, but a statement that carried with it the weight of everything we'd shared, all the moments that had brought us here. That kiss was the beginning of something more profound than I'd ever known. In that moment, all the walls I'd built around myself came crumbling down, and I allowed myself to be vulnerable, to accept what I wanted, and to embrace the connection that had been growing between us for so long. The days and weeks that followed were filled with secret moments, quiet encounters that made my pulse race and left me longing for more. We would meet in hidden corners of the city, stolen places where we could lose ourselves in each other without fear of judgment. Every touch, every kiss felt like an affirmation, a reassurance that we were meant to be together, even if the world around us didn't understand. One afternoon, after a particularly intense day together, we found ourselves alone in her apartment, bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun. Nora reached for my hand, guiding me to her, and we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, the silence between us speaking louder than any words could. Her hands roamed over my back, pressing me closer, and I felt her breath against my neck, warm and steady. She kissed me again, slower this time, her lips brushing over mine with a tenderness that took my breath away. My hands found their way to her waist, pulling her closer, my heart pounding as her fingers slid up my spine, igniting every nerve ending along the way. I could feel the heat between us intensify, every touch, every movement charged with desire. When her lips parted, inviting me deeper, I couldn't resist. Our kiss became an exploration, a silent conversation of wants and needs that words could never capture. I felt her hands slide down to my waist, grounding me, and in that moment, it felt like she was my anchor, the one steady thing in a world that suddenly felt chaotic and uncertain. With every kiss, every embrace, I fell deeper. Nora had become not just my lover, but my confidant, my partner in ways that went far beyond the physical. We spent hours together, talking about our dreams, our fears, the lives we wanted to build. She saw me in ways no one else ever had, peeling back the layers of myself that I'd hidden away, making me feel strong, capable, and worthy of love. Our relationship, however, was not without its challenges. Society, family, expectations, they all cast shadows over our love, and there were moments when the weight of it all felt almost too much to bear. But every time I felt doubt creep in, Nora was there, her steady presence grounding me, reminding me that what we had was worth fighting for. One evening, after we had spent the day together, she pulled me close, her hands framing my face as she looked into my eyes. "No matter what happens, I'm here," she said softly, her words a quiet promise that made my heart swell. The world around us might never understand our love, might never accept it, but in that moment, it didn't matter. We were together, bound by a connection that went deeper than words, deeper than any labels or expectations. And as I held her in my arms, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, our love as steady and enduring as the tides. In Nora's arms, I found a sanctuary, a place where I could be unapologetically myself, where I could let go of the fears and doubts that had always held me back. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly, deeply, irrevocably whole. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotion and discovery. Each time Clara and Nora met, it was as though a magnetic pull grew stronger, drawing them closer, dissolving any lingering fears or doubts. Every touch, every glance felt as if it was filled with unspoken promises and shared dreams. In the quiet moments they shared, their connection deepened. They often spent long hours together, completely engrossed in each other, wrapped in the warmth of each other's presence. In Nora's embrace, Clara found a comfort and security she had never experienced before. They shared endless conversations, often losing track of time as they unraveled parts of themselves, their laughter filling the room, their shared silences rich with understanding.
One night, after a peaceful evening spent stargazing at a nearby beach, they returned to Nora's apartment. As the night unfolded, their shared connection seemed to take on a life of its own, uniting them in ways that went beyond words. They held each other, every movement a gentle, silent affirmation of their bond, each embrace a declaration of mutual trust and shared desire. In the following weeks, Clara and Nora discovered a world of tenderness and closeness that filled their lives with newfound meaning. Each evening spent together only deepened the connection they felt, creating a foundation of respect, admiration, and understanding. They would spend mornings sharing quiet breakfasts, afternoons exploring art galleries or parks, and evenings wrapped in each other's company, exchanging smiles, shared glances, and whispered words. Their relationship grew stronger with each passing day, creating a shared world that felt invulnerable to outside forces. Friends could see the change in Clara, a new lightness in her steps, an unmistakable happiness in her eyes. Nora, too, seemed transformed, her usual confident demeanor now softened by a warmth that only Clara brought out in her. However, as their relationship flourished, they knew that they would eventually need to navigate the opinions and expectations of those around them. Clara's family held traditional values, and despite her love for Nora, she sometimes felt the weight of their expectations pressing upon her. Nora, understanding Clara's struggles, supported her unwaveringly, always there to offer a listening ear or a comforting presence. Together, they faced each challenge as a united front, each supporting the other with a love that proved resilient and unbreakable. One evening, after a meaningful discussion about the future, Clara finally felt the courage to share her truth with her family. It was a difficult and emotional conversation, but with Nora by her side, she felt a strength she hadn't known before. Over time, her family came to see the happiness and fulfillment Nora brought into Clara's life. Though acceptance didn't come easily, they grew to understand the depth and sincerity of Clara and Nora's love. Years passed, and their love only grew stronger. Together, they built a life filled with laughter, compassion, and shared memories. On a quiet morning, as they sat together watching the sun rise, Nora looked at Clara, her eyes full of gratitude and love. "I'm thankful for every moment we've shared, for all the challenges we've faced together," Nora whispered, her voice soft yet full of conviction. "Loving you has been the greatest journey of my life." In that moment, Clara realized that every step of their path, every obstacle, and every joy had led them to this beautiful, unbreakable bond. Their love, tested and strengthened by time, had become a story of trust, resilience, and unwavering commitment. As they looked out at the world together, hand in hand, they knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side, their hearts forever intertwined in a love that was theirs alone.